Everyone, and thank you very much for joining us for this short webinar. My name is Philip Compass. I work in the corporate communications team here at the Chalk River Laboratories. I have just a couple of short housekeeping and logistical notice for you, and then we'll begin the webinar shortly. First of all, this is the first time for us using this technology for a broadcast meeting of this sort, so we appreciate your patience, and we would welcome any feedback if you have any difficulty after the presentation. On a similar vein, all of the presentations and the video from this afternoon will be posted on cnl.ca within a couple of days following the end of the session. So if you do miss any content or are unable to join for any reason, you'll be welcome to access those files at that particular point in time. We do have quite a diverse audience joining us for this webinar today, so we appreciate your patience and your cooperation if some of the information is either redundant or perhaps not of key interest to you. We are trying to reach a lot of people, and we will certainly have an opportunity for questions and answers following the formal presentation portion. On that logistical note regarding the question and answer portion, all participant microphones are muted at this point in time, so if you would like to speak or have your audio come into the presentation, you do need to indicate your interest through the message function in the sidebar of your screen, and we will unmute your connection. You'll actually receive a confirmation and a request to unmute as well on your end. You do need to accept that request before you're able to speak. Or certainly if you have a question for any of the presenters, if you type it into the message function, we'll read it aloud or it will be read aloud. And we'll begin the discussion at that point in time. Before we jump in, if you just take a moment to address any safety concerns in your own particular areas, and we'll get started shortly. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to our webinar about the request for expression of interest into CNL's small modular reactor strategy. I'm Bronwyn Highland. I'm the Program Manager for Small Modular Reactors at CNL. We've arranged this webinar today to provide a venue to provide more information and context behind this RFEOI that CNL has issued and give you a chance to engage and to ask any questions that you have. So we've got 4 things on the agenda today. First, we'll have Dr. Corey McDaniel, who is our Vice President of Business Development and Commercial Ventures. He'll give a short overview of CNL and CNL's interests in SMRs and our capabilities in this area. Second, we have Dr. Shannon Quinn, who is Vice President of Science, Technology, and Commercial Oversight at AECL. She'll provide some perspectives from AECL and AECL's role in an SMR program. Then I'll be back up to give you more technical information on the what, why, and how of the RFEOI, and then we'll open up the floor to Q's and A's. I'd also like to take this opportunity to introduce some representatives from our host communities who are on the line today. We have Blair Skinner, who's the mayor at Pinawa, Manitoba, Emily Chazalis from Pontiac, Quebec, and we have David Waibu representing Renfrew County. So now I will turn it over to Corey.
Thank you, Bronwyn. So I'm just going to give a short overview of CNL and talk about our interest in the areas of SMR development. I'm going to stay seated while I'm looking at the slides here. So as many of you know, and perhaps some of you don't know, Chalk River is the single largest science and technology laboratory in Canada, with over 9,000 acres, 200 acres of lab complex, 17 nuclear facilities, and over 3,100 employees. In our capabilities, which I'm going to discuss specifically related to SMRs, includes advanced nuclear fuels materials, radiobiology, radioecology and dosimetry, hydrogen isotope management, nuclear safety, security and risk management, nuclear and systems engineering, and nuclear chemistry applications. Again, this just lists our specific capabilities that I just discussed and how it relates to collaborations with the people, facilities, and equipment. And this slide lists the 4 areas of research that we conduct at CNL and highlights that we do work federally, commercially, and we have a mission of decommissioning and waste management for legacy buildings at Chalk River. Energy is where the SMR program falls that we're talking about today. We also have programs in health, as I'm sure many of you are aware of, and medical isotopes, safety and security, non-proliferation, and the environment. So these are 4 bullets highlighted from the 10-year CNL plan as it relates to SMRs. We intend to demonstrate the commercial viability of a small modular reactor by 2026 in Canada. We intend to be recognized globally as a leader in the SMR prototype testing and S&T support area. We intend to be recognized as a hub for SMRs where multiple vendor supported prototypes are built and tested. And in the next 10 years, as we stated earlier, we intend to host a prototype. So that is in our 10-year plan, which is available on the CNL website, and you can read in more detail. Specifically, as we look at the support and the reasons to work with CNL on small modular reactors, these are 5 of the areas that we can provide support. I mentioned in the technical our capabilities in research and development, the facilities that we have here at the laboratory, and our personnel. The business support that we would provide would be on the licensing and information management areas. Operational support that exists at the laboratory for fire, security, radiation protection and operations. And of course our expertise in waste management and operations. And then communications and stakeholder relations. Those are some of the areas that makes CNL, we think, more attractive to those who are looking to deploy first-of-a-kind or prototype small modular reactors. Talking again specifically on our unique capabilities that will be of interest to those who are looking to deploy these different varying technologies. Our capability to handle uranium, plutonium, and transatomic bearing materials. Our expertise in the development of fuel, fabrication of fuel, and understanding the behavior and measurement of the fuel for advanced reactors. Modeling, simulation, and code qualification. Chemistry and corrosion. We have a world-renowned expertise in hydrogen and tritium management. And as I mentioned, non-proliferation, safeguards, and cybersecurity, those responsibilities that we provide for the Government of Canada. And thermal hydraulics, high temperature, high pressure, which are particularly of interest to the small modular and advanced reactors, some of which will operate at temperatures and pressures and conditions, material conditions that have not been deployed commercially previously. This is just an overview. If you read our 10-year plan, we'll discuss some of the infrastructure that we are, I'm not sure if I have the ability to put an arrow here. Sure. So the infrastructure that has been recently constructed, Building 350, which houses brand new laboratories and was commissioned just last year. We are constructing a business hub, which will be in this location here, and I don't know that I'm controlling that arrow. The Advanced Nuclear Materials Research Center is going to be a new facility that will have PIE capabilities and hot cells that will expand upon and continue the work that we are currently doing at the Chalk River site. We'll also have a switch yard, and basically the overall infrastructure investment that the Government of Canada has committed at this point is over $1.2 billion to develop infrastructure to meet the needs of the industry going forward, including advanced and small modular reactors. And with that, I will pass the mic over to Shannon with ACL to give the government perspective.
Thank you very much. So the overview slides that I'll give today are really positioned to answer some questions that we know people have had around the role that ACL plays today and how that's distinct from the role of CNL, and also specifically in the area of SMRs, what are ACL's interests going forward. So many of you on the line will be familiar with ACL and its history, but for those who are new, ACL has been around as a federal crown corporation since 1952. It has a very long and proud history in nuclear specifically, and in science more broadly, and in general, and is in fact the birthplace of the very significant nuclear industry that exists here in Canada today. So much of what people would know of ACL historically is actually captured now within CNL. So all of that expertise, know-how, skill, and access to facilities and intellectual property that has been the basis of the success of ACL for over 60 years is now largely housed within CNL. So for people who have had ongoing relationships with people historically in ACL, very likely those relationships can continue now, very often with some of those same people in CNL. And it is CNL that does really lead on all day-to-day activities and initiatives, including all of those initiatives around SMRs. But ACL continues to exist today as a small crown corporation, and our mandate is really largely the same as it always has been. It's focused in two areas. One is enabling nuclear science and technology for the benefit of government and Canadians, as well as for the broad industry and sector here in Canada, and also to discharge the Government of Canada's responsibilities with respect to radioactive waste and decommissioning. But today, the nature of ACL as an organization is very different. So whereas before we were quite a large organization of over 3,000 employees, today we're a very small organization of approximately 40 employees. And the vast majority of those people, as I've already said, that you would have known historically are now housed in CNL. What ACL does as a 40-person organization is largely contract out the delivery of large portions of our mandate. So whereas before we used to self-perform our mandate, today we contract out most, and we contract it to Canadian nuclear laboratories. So really it comes down to ACL having really two roles today. It's primarily focused on oversight of this very significant, what we refer to as a GOCO contractual arrangement between us, CNL, and its private sector shareholder, CNEA, as well as maintaining our historic role as agent of the Government of Canada and advisor to the Government of Canada. So what you're seeing here on the slide is a pictorial that's really trying to emphasize the fact that ACL today remains the Crown Corporation that owns all of the liabilities, facilities, assets, including intellectual property, and we have a contractual relationship with Canadian Nuclear Laboratories for the day-to-day management and operation of all of our sites, facilities, and assets. So then moving on, how does that then translate into ACL's role with respect to SMRs? So I've already talked about ACL and its mission to enable nuclear science and technology for the benefit of this country broadly. So in that context, ACL does provide Government of Canada funding for research and development activities, and currently part of that R&D funding is used on a small scale basis to undertake some initial activities with respect to SMRs at CNL. I've also mentioned that ACL continues to be the owner of all of the sites and the assets, and so To the extent that a project moves forward around SMRs and there's a requirement for land or use of land, there would be ACL approvals in that regard. And so from the perspective of ACL as an advisor to government, and specifically related to this RFEOI, which is really a broad information gathering exercise, it is of great interest to ACL to understand through this process all of the many considerations that might go into considering SMRs and the value and benefit that they could potentially bring not only to CNL, to ACL, but more broadly to Canada as a nation. And then ACL as the owner of the liabilities and also the Government of Canada entity responsible for discharging majority of the government's radioactive waste and decommissioning liabilities. It would be ACL's role to understand what the liability implications would be around any SMR project, and then to the extent that there would be requirements around liabilities to bring those back to government. So often in these types of fora, ACL is asked about what are ACL's considerations when it comes to SMRs, and this is quite a long list, and I won't go over it in detail, but it is really simply meant to give people a flavor for the fact that ACL's considerations are many and they're varied. And they span the whole gamut from policy considerations all the way through to sort of more technical R&D type considerations, and even sort of siting and liability and economic considerations. And so this is by no means intended to be a comprehensive list, but rather an initial list, which we hope will be informed by and will evolve based on information that we receive or CNL receives through this RFEOI process. So this list is very preliminary. It's a work in progress, and part of the value that we see in the RFEOI is in helping to better develop and inform this list. Another aspect of ACL's role, especially as agent of the Government of Canada, is to think about how SMRs fit in the context of broader government priorities. And so what I've done here is just list out just a selection of Government of Canada initiatives that are directly or indirectly related to ongoing consideration of SMRs in this country. And I won't go over all of them, but maybe take the opportunity just to highlight a couple of them. So many of you are likely aware, but in case it's not come to your attention, I would like to flag Generation Energy, which is an initiative on the part of the Government of Canada led by Natural Resources Canada to really create a national dialogue around Canada's low carbon energy future. And in the context of Generation Energy, then stakeholders across this country, whether they be in the private sector or the public sector, are asking how their energy-related technologies, how their energy options fit in the broad portfolio of the energy offerings that exist in this country. And so ACL, together with many other stakeholders, is asking those questions, and we're very hopeful that there will be an interesting dialogue that may be informed in part by some of the information that we gather through this RFEOI process. I'd also just like to flag the Innovation Superclusters Initiative, which is also an initiative launched on the part of the Government of Canada. to invest in supporting business-led superclusters. And many of the other items on here you can follow up on in your own time. And just the last one has already been touched on by Corey, and it is the investment on the part of the Government of Canada in the renewal of the Chalk River site for the benefit of science in this country broadly, which may also lend itself to CNL's initiatives when it comes to SM. With that, then I'll pass the microphone back to Bronwyn, who will talk a little bit more specifically about the RFEOI itself and some of the sub-elements associated with that.
Thanks, Shannon. So now we'll get into a little bit more of the technical details behind CNL's request for expressions of interest. Before I do that, I'd like to just provide the following disclaimer regarding the RFEOI, which is that this request for expressions of interest is only a request for information. It is not a step or a prerequisite to any future procurement. The RFEOI is a non-binding process on CNL, and CNL shall not be obligated in any manner to any interested party under this RFEOI. For certainty, it is not, and under no circumstances is it to be construed as an invitation to bid, a call for tenders, or a request for proposals. This RFEOI is neither a procurement contract nor a contract to carry out any services as a result of this RFEOI or as a result of an RFEOI submission. CNL reserves the right to modify, cancel, or suspend this RFEOI process at any stage, at any time, for any reason. Accept or reject any response in the sole and absolute discretion of CNL, not accept any response, and or reject or disqualify any or all RFEOI without any obligation, compensation, or reimbursement to any interested party. Thanks. So first, why did CNL put out this RFEOI? We really want to better understand the market interest in SMRs, including the siting of any demonstration or prototype reactor. We want to understand the interest in research and development and other services that CNL could bring to support SMR development and deployment. We want to better understand the challenges and opportunities in bringing SMRs to market. And we want to understand any other interest that exists out there in SMRs from a variety of stakeholders. We want to better understand all the potential players in a potential SMR industry. We want to build an understanding of the capabilities of technology developers and other stakeholders, both in what they would bring to a partnership with CNL and what is needed for successful commercial deployment. Then what are we going to use this information for? We want to first measure respondent interest in constructing a prototype or demonstration reactor on a CNL managed site. As Corey mentioned earlier, hosting a prototype or demonstration SMR on a CNL site is part of our 10-year plan. We want to understand what various stakeholders can contribute to an SMR program at CNL. We want to identify... Wait, I'm going backwards. Sorry. We want to identify the needs of respondents in terms of the R&D facilities they might need, the expertise they would like to draw on, and any services that we could provide. We want to obtain information to guide any future siting that might happen here or pre-licensing discussions. We want to engage with our stakeholders such as governments, funders, communities, and potential end users. And we want to understand the potential opportunities for prototype and demonstration reactors, and as well guide our own internal planning. Now the technical bits on how do you respond. To respond to our RFEOI, please go to our SMR website at www.cnl.ca/SMR. When you go there, you will see this splash screen. The RFEOI consists of two parts. One which is intended for all stakeholders, which is found under General Submissions. So when you click that General Submission link, you will then see this page, which gives you more information about the RFEOI. Here you can download the entire document, or if you want to submit your responses online, you can click this blue button here, which takes you to an online submission form. And so in this general section of the RFEOI, we're asking really kind of generic questions to get more understanding of the potential of an SMR industry in general. So we ask about energy needs, what's your role in bringing an SMR to deployment, what is needed to bring an SMR to deployment, any R&D that you see that's needed, potential applications for SMRs, and there's also a section for any other additional information that you would like to provide. The second section of this RFEOI is really intended for developers of SMR technology. So this section looks like this, SMR Technology Developers section. And here there's no online submission form. You just download the RFEOI and type it out in whatever your favorite program is as a Word document or whatever. And please submit it by email to smr@cnl.ca. This section of the RFEOI asks about the attributes of your technologies, asks for a description of your technologies, your R&D needs, and your requirements for a demonstration or prototype reactor that you may potentially be interested in siting at a CNL site. So now, who should respond? We would like to hear responses from everyone. As a technology developer, your response would ensure that your input regarding your design and your research needs are being captured by CNL and will inform any discussions that we have going forward. You will also be able to shape any site selection work that we will be doing in the future. As an end user, you can provide us an understanding of your energy needs and potentially what you would be looking to get out of this clean, reliable source of power. Your input is also very valuable in identifying areas of public concern or opportunities for better communication and education regarding SMRs. As a member of the nuclear supply chain or the academic and research community or any other stakeholders, you're able to suggest opportunities where we can work together collaboratively with technology developers, with academic institutions, with government, or with any other stakeholders. In addition, you're able to provide your thoughts on areas where you feel that we can best support a vendor on the path to deployment. I'd also like to underline that any responses that we receive may be shared with Atomic Energy of Canada, ACL, and its shareholder, the Ministry of Natural Resources. Any proprietary information that we receive that is identified clearly as proprietary will be treated as such by all of CNL, AECL, and NRCan. Responses to the RFEOI are requested by July 31st. Thank you very much for attending our webinar today, and I'm now going to open the floor to Q's and A's.
So I'm told that unfortunately the government of Canada is not able to provide incentives or any prizes for the first question that comes out, but we're still going to encourage you to submit your questions either online. You should be able to type the question in, or you can submit a question verbally by entering the code on the phone. I think we might have our first question. Okay, I will pass that back to Bronwyn to discuss it, since Bronwyn's team my team will be responding or taking the responses.
Hi, so we'll be collecting all the data, and I'll be compiling it into a summary report, and that report will be distributed to all participants sometime in the fall of this year.
I'll respond to that one. We don't know yet. As this is a request for expressions of interest, we're interested to see what type of reactors vendors are interested in CNL. The range of reactors could range from reactors that are similar to existing light water reactor technologies or heavy water technologies. We also would expect that there would be some advanced reactors that would use non-water coolants. So we do expect, based on conversations that we've had and interactions with CNL and vendors, that we will get a wide range of responses from literally all types of different reactor technologies. There's no limit. There's no reactor technology that we're not going to consider. And again, this is all just for consideration. None of this is for us to make a down select of any sort. It's all just collecting information.
Computational framework is proposed to model any reactors you select in the future?
Well, that is a technical question that I could hand it to Bronwyn, but I know that her response will be that we don't have an answer specifically to that. But maybe Bronwyn can speak a little bit to some of the computer modeling simulation work that we do at CNL, because it would be our expectation, and maybe I didn't highlight this in our presentation, that we would offer an assortment of support activities for any SMR that would come to Canada. And among those services would be the research and development services that would include modeling, as well as the radiological services, the modeling and simulation of the fuels of radiation, corrosion, thermal hydraulics. But let me let Bronwyn speak to some of what we currently do, and then it would be our expectation we would do that for any and all new potential vendors.
Yeah, I think that was a good answer. This is a bit of a tricky question because each reactor is different and would require a different code capability. There's no one code out there today that you could use to model every single reactor and every phenomenon that's out there. So it's a question that really has to be considered separately for each reactor that comes across.
Up to how many SMRs can you host on your site, and what government approvals would be required besides CNSC? How many? Who approves?
We'll pass that one over to Shannon.
Thank you very much. In terms of the absolute number, I think the answer is we don't know. So I know that CNL, and you may have heard it in other contexts, is talking about citing SMRs in the plural. Corey, when he gave his presentation, spoke to the fact that CNL manages on behalf of ACL a number of sites, including Whiteshell and Chalk River. And also, he talked a little bit about the size of the Chalk River site itself, which is very considerable. Similarly, the Whiteshell site also encompasses quite a lot of acreage. And so from those perspectives, as well as other perspectives, there is a view that there is potential for multiple SMRs on site. Exactly how many is one of many open questions that will be explored going forward, including being informed by some of the information that we receive back. So the second aspect of the question was related to what government approvals are required, and unfortunately, the answer depends a little bit on exactly what's being proposed. But we do anticipate that there would be government approvals required for any sort of very significant project, partly because of the fact that it's difficult to contemplate an SMR project that wouldn't have some sort of risk profile associated with it, even in a scenario where third parties would be coming with funding and so on. But really, this is where the details become important, and so this is also part of the reason why ACL is very interested in some of these responses, so that we can better understand what some of the possibilities could be, so that we can think about this very question of the totality of the considerations and approvals that would be required from ACL itself and the government more broadly.
I have several others here. Does CNL ACL have their own homegrown SMR design concept that might be considered?
I just say, from the perspective of CNL, we are not in the business of designing or putting together any designs of our own. We would envisage that any vendor that had a design, we would be able to support any and all designs, but there is no Government of Canada or CNL design itself.
Would CNL provide services on a cost recovery basis?
Yes.
Terrestrial Energy has announced it's commencing work to explore siting the first commercial IMSR power plant at CNL. Is this activity being coordinated within the RFEOI activities?
The activities with Terrestrial are a separate commercial activity between Terrestrial and CNL. We are providing support to their to Terrestrial, looking at siting an SMR. Those are separate activities, but we would also envisage that as a result of the RFEOI, if other SMR vendors, any SMR vendor wanted to approach CNL about similar services, we would provide those services as well. And I would say that there are other SMR vendors who have approached us and are interested in entering into similar commercial agreements. Couple of questions that we've been receiving that we were expecting. We can address some of those. Maybe that will spark some other questions. But these are some questions that we've received during the process of the RFEOI receiving some comments. So I'll let Bronwyn address a couple of these.
One question that we've received is, what are CNL's plans to progress towards a license application for SMR? Your licensing and regulation of nuclear facilities is the mandate of the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission. Anything that touches on licensing would require a discussion with, input from, and decisions by the CNSC. CNL has not engaged in any kind of pre-licensing discussions with the CNSC at this time, and we're not prepared to speculate on how those discussions would proceed in the future. We have no intention of submitting any kind of license applications in the near future, certainly not within this year.
Bronwyn, you indicated that reports will be distributed to all participants. Could you define all participants?
At the conclusion of the RFEOI.
So anybody who submits a response, we will have your contact information and we can email you that summary report. It will also be posted on our website for public download. We could also send out a notification to this email subscriber list through which you got the invitation to this webinar when it is made available on our website for download.
Are you willing to share information about who participated in the RFEOI?
Well, not at this time, but the deadline to submit to the RFEOI is July 31st. We have received some submissions already, and we're in regular contact with groups, public, vendors, suppliers that we're encouraging to respond to the RFEOI. We are today, the reason we're doing this webinar is, again, to drum up interest. So anybody who's participating in this call, we would like to receive your responses. But I would just say that broadly we've received and expect to receive responses from the public, from vendors, from any interested party in SMR deployment in Canada.
What is the CNL ACL decision-making framework in regards to selecting which technologies to support, to the extent that a reply can be provided?
I don't know that a detailed reply could be provided. Again, this whole thing is the beginning of a process of collecting information, but I'll pass it over to Shannon and see if she wants to say anything on that one.
I think that's that holds for ACL as well. So from the perspective of ACL, this is really an information gathering session that will inform not only CNL but also ACL as it contemplates the many open questions, one of which would be around process, selection, and so on. And so we're hoping that information through the RFEOI will help to inform decisions that would be made in those regards and others.
Will CNL distribute to potential vendors the assets that the White Shell Laboratories has in regards to previously hosting research reactors and other facilities?
I mean, if somebody's requesting information about the assets at any of the CNL facilities, I think that might be a separate discussion directly with CNL. We are regularly approached by potential partners, commercial ventures, about different areas that we might be able to work with industry. So that would probably be more of a case-by-case instance. If somebody had some information or had some interest in White Shell, they should contact us directly. They can contact us at our individual emails, or they can contact us through smr@cnl.ca, and we could respond to that directly. And I'll also say, if you respond to the RFEOI and you put in your response that you like that information, that'll also be another good way. But perhaps if you're specifically looking for something like that, just respond to us directly.
Some of the organizations that comprise CNEA are backing their own SMR designs. Have any of these organizations expressed interest in having their design developed at CNL?
Again, I think we don't know yet because the RFEOI is not closed, but we would expect. I know that I think any of the vendors that would be known publicly, we're already in contact with those companies. So I would say that all of the SMRs are being encouraged to participate in the RFEOI, and it's certainly our expectation that most of them will. See other ones. And as I look at some of these questions, I think we've already addressed. what we may want to do is at this point, if we don't have any more questions, we can perhaps have some just closing remarks, and where we all encourage you once again to respond to the RFEOI, because again, the more responses we receive, the better we can put together information to make decisions and to inform the government about the future of SMRs in Canada. So from that respect, I'll just see if Bronwyn has any closing remarks. Then I'll hand it off to Shannon, let you, if you'd like to perhaps wrap up, if no more questions. Okay. And again, if you know of somebody who who was not able to participate in the call, all of this information, as Philip mentioned, will be available online afterwards. If you want to go back and watch it again, or send it to your friends, we encourage you to please pass the word on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Corey. I think we can see by the nature of the questions that have come up that the interest is varied, and this is very encouraging to us, because this was our hope and our expectation. And so, like Corey, I would encourage everyone to submit responses, and no matter the nature of your interest, what you have to offer, or the questions that you may continue to have, I would ask that you put that down and send it in through the RFEOI process, which is a very flexible process, and so allows you to submit responses that would be to some part of or all of the various aspects that are covered in there. And to the extent that your interests you don't see reflected in the questions posed, there is opportunity for you to respond in the other sections, and I would highly encourage you to do so. So again, thank you very much for your time, and I'll hand it back to Corey. Thank you.
Somebody came up with another question? That's it? Okay. Well, again, we want to thank everybody for participating. Please shoot us your comments, shoot us your questions, and we look forward to sharing the information after July 31st. And we appreciate, how many people did we have participating? 50. So I think that's the number we were actually hoping for. So that's great. So thank you all very much, and we look forward to seeing your comments. Thank you.